In the heart of the Akan land, nestled among rolling hills and dense forests, lay the village of Tikrom. It was a place where the living and the spirits of the ancestors walked hand in hand, where every tree, river, and rock held the whispers of those who had come before. The villagers of Tikrom lived in harmony, guided by the wisdom of their elders and the protection of the ancestors, who were honored in daily rituals and grand ceremonies. Dwais was known for its hunters, who provided the village with game and kept the balance between man and nature. Among them, Kofi stood out, not just for his skill, but for his deep connection to the spiritual world. It was said that Kofi could hear the voices of the ancestors in the rustling leaves and the flowing rivers, and that his arrows never missed their mark because they were guided by unseen hands. Kofi was a man of integrity, loved by his people and cherished by Afia, the woman who had captured his heart. Afia was as wise as she was beautiful, her voice as soothing as the evening breeze, and her presence a comfort to all who knew her. Together, Kofi and Afia were the epitome of what the village valued most: love, respect, and a deep reverence for tradition. Kwame, Kofi's closest friend since childhood, was also a hunter. They had grown up together, learning the ways of the forest and the teachings of their ancestors. But while Kofi was content with the life they led, Kwame was not. Over time, Kwame's admiration for Kofi turned into envy. He couldn't help but compare his own achievements to Kofi's and found himself wanting. Kofi was praised for his wisdom, admired for his skill, and, to Kwame's dismay, loved by Afia, the woman Kwame secretly desired. Kwame's jealousy festered like an open wound, and though he tried to suppress it, the darkness in his heart grew stronger with each passing day. His resentment was like a creeping shadow, always present, and it clouded his thoughts, making him bitter and angry. One day, after a particularly successful hunt where Kofi had brought down a mighty antelope, the village gathered to celebrate. Afia, with her gentle hands and warm smile, prepared a feast in Kofi's honor. As the villagers danced and sang praises to Kofi and the ancestors, Kwame watched from the sidelines, his heart burning with envy. He forced a smile, but inside, he was consumed by the desire to bring Kofi down from the pedestal he had been placed upon. In the days that followed, Kwame's jealousy took root in his heart, twisting his thoughts into a sinister plan. He would tarnish Kofi's reputation, not by strength of arms, but by manipulating the very thing that Kofi held most dear: the respect of the ancestors. Kwame knew that in Tikrom, the ancestors' favor was paramount. Without it, no man could hold his head high, no matter his accomplishments. Kwame decided to exploit the villagers' reverence for the spiritual world by sowing seeds of doubt about Kofi's devotion to the ancestors. Under the guise of seeking spiritual guidance, Kwame visited Nana Ama, the village elder and seer, known for her deep connection to the spiritual realm. Nana Ama wisdom was revered, and her words were often seen as the voice of the ancestors themselves. Kwame, with a heavy heart and a voice filled with false sincerity, spoke to her about his concerns. Nana Ama, Kwame began, bowing low before her, "I come to you troubled. I have seen things, felt things. Strange things, that make me fear for our village. I do not wish to speak ill of my brother, Kofi, but I must share what weighs on my heart. I fear that in his success, he may have forgotten to honor the ancestors as he once did." Nana Ama, her eyes sharp and probing, listened carefully. "What is it that you have seen, Kwame? Speak plainly, for the ancestors do not take kindly to deceit." Kwame hesitated, knowing that his words must be carefully chosen. "I have seen him return from the hunt, Nana. But instead of giving thanks at the shrine as he always has, he walks away, distracted, as if the spirits no longer guide him. And in the forest, I have heard strange whispers, not of the ancestors, but something else." Nana Ama's expression darkened. The ancestors were sacred, and any sign of neglect towards them was a serious matter. She promised Kwame that she would watch Kofi closely and consult the ancestors through divination. That night, as Kofi slept in his hut, he was plagued by strange dreams. He found himself in a dark, misty forest, where the trees seemed to whisper his name. But these were not the familiar whispers of the ancestors that had guided him all his life. These voices were harsh, accusing, and filled with sorrow. The faces of the ancestors appeared in the mist, but they were twisted with anger and disappointment. "Kofi," they whispered, "you have forgotten us. You have strayed from the path. Beware the betrayal that walks beside you." Kofi awoke in a cold sweat, the words echoing in his mind. He was confused and frightened. The ancestors had never spoken to him in such a way before. He began to question himself. Had he somehow offended the spirits? Had he neglected his duties in his pursuit of success? The dreams continued, night after night, each more disturbing than the last. Kofi's heart grew heavy with guilt, and he began to withdraw from those around him, even from Afia, who noticed the change in him and became worried. The day of the village's most sacred ceremony arrived, a day when the villagers gathered to honor the ancestors with offerings and prayers. The air was thick with anticipation, and the village square was filled with the scent of burning incense and the sound of drums. As the ceremony reached its peak, Kwame stepped forward, his face a mask of righteous indignation. He raised his voice, loud enough for all to hear. "People of Tikrom, we gather here today to honor our ancestors, but I fear that not all of us have shown the proper respect. There is one among us who has turned his back on the spirits, who has neglected the very foundation of our lives." The villagers gasped in shock, looking around to see who Kwame was accusing. Kofi stepped forward, confusion and fear etched on his face. "What are you saying, Kwame? I have always honored the ancestors, as we were taught." But Kwame was relentless. "Have you, Kofi? Or have you allowed your success to blind you? Have you forgotten the rituals? The prayers, the offerings? The ancestors have spoken to me, and they are not pleased with you." The villagers murmured among themselves, uncertainty and fear spreading like wildfire. Kofi's heart sank as he realized that Kwame's words were having their intended effect. The doubt in the villagers' eyes was clear. His honor, his reputation, everything he had worked for was at stake. Nana Amma, having witnessed the growing tension, stepped forward. Her voice, though aged, commanded respect and silence. "Enough," she declared. "This is not how we resolve such matters. The ancestors will speak, and their judgment will be final." She called upon Okomfo Asare, the village priest, to prepare a sacred ritual to uncover the truth. The villagers, eager to see the outcome, gathered around as the priest began his incantations. The air grew thick with the scent of herbs and the sound of drums, beating in rhythm with the pounding hearts of those watching. Okomfo Asare, his voice deep and resonant, called upon the spirits to reveal the truth. "Ancestors, we call upon you now. Show us the path, reveal the deception, and restore the honor of the one who is wronged." As the ritual reached its climax, the sky darkened, and the wind began to howl through the village. The fire at the center of the square flared up, and out of the flames emerged the glowing forms of the ancestors, their presence undeniable. The villagers fell to their knees in awe and fear. The spirits spoke in a voice that seemed to come from all directions at once. "We have seen the darkness that lurks in the heart of one who was once trusted. We have heard the whispers of deceit and betrayal. The one who has dishonored us is not Kofi, but Kwame, who has sought to destroy his friend out of envy and spite." Kwame's face turned ashen as the ancestors revealed his treachery. The villagers, shocked and angry, turned their backs on him. Kofi, though heartbroken by his friend's betrayal, knew what had to be done. Kofi, with the wisdom that had always guided him, stepped forward. "Kwame, you were my brother in all but blood. I do not hate you, but you must leave this village. Go and seek redemption, and perhaps one day, the ancestors will forgive you, as I do now." Kwame, tears streaming down his face, nodded. He knew that his actions had destroyed the life he had known, and now he had to face the consequences. The villagers watched in silence as Kwame turned and walked away from Tikrom, his head bowed in shame. In the days that followed, the village began to heal. Kofi and Afia's bond grew stronger, forged in the fire of adversity. The villagers, having seen the power of the ancestors' judgment, renewed their dedication to the traditions that had sustained them for generations. As time passed, Tikrom thrived once more, its people living in harmony with the land and the spirits that guided them. Kofi continued to hear the whispers of the ancestors, but now they were filled with praise and guidance, a constant reminder of the bond between the living and the dead, and somewhere, far beyond the borders of the village, Kwame wandered the land, seeking redemption. He knew that his journey would be long and difficult, but he hoped that one day, he would be able to return to Tikrom with a heart cleansed of envy, ready to serve the ancestors as he once had. The story of Kofi, Kwame, and the ancestors became a legend in Tikrom, a tale told to remind the people of the dangers of envy and the power of forgiveness. The whispers of the ancestors continued to guide the village, ensuring that their wisdom would never be forgotten.